And we are recording. Well, welcome everybody to the monthly Understanding the FairTax webinar. This is not Mark Maneri. You can probably tell by the voice. Mark is out of town this week, and he asked Elaine and I to do the webinar this month, which is
hello everyone.
Yep. So we are Ron and Elaine Malero. We're, like Mark, we're volunteers with the Florida FairTax Educational Association. Mark has been doing this webinar for, I don't know, it's close to 10 years now. Does a fine job with it. So we're going to get going. I think we've got everybody we're going to have for a while. Anyways, if somebody else comes on, good. You're all in listen-only mode. Also, there is a box in which you can type questions. We're going to go through our initial presentation about the fair tax. You know, what is the fair tax and some of the benefits of that. And then we're going to get to our special topic tonight, which is how you can learn more about the fair tax and help other people learn more. And that's very important to get other people involved.
And of course, we'll answer all of your questions if we can.
Yeah, and plus we got Randy Fisher with us tonight too, so anything that Elaine and I can't handle, he can. So there's our topic for later on after we go through our initial presentation. I think you'll find it a little bit different tonight. We say, or I do constantly, online, Facebook, emails, everywhere I can. The fair tax is the only real tax reform in Congress. All right, give credit to the people that made, came up with the tax changes in December, but those are reductions. It didn't really reform the tax code. We still have the IRS. We still have an income tax. We still have a payroll tax. We still have FICA taxes. And going back to the IRS, we still have all the problems associated with the IRS. So the fair tax is the only real tax reform in Congress, and it is legislation in Congress, H.R. 25 in the House and S. 18 in the Senate. Now, we're going to do a little video here. This video is available on YouTube and various places, fairtax.org, which we'll talk about later. But let's just listen to this for a few seconds. It's a little over a minute.
The Fair Tax is a tax replacement plan where we take all the federal income taxes, including corporate, personal, gift, and estate taxes, and replace them with one national consumption tax on new purchases above the poverty level only. This form of consumption tax comes with no exceptions and is progressive, not regressive. The poor are not paying more, and the rich are not paying less. What makes it progressive is that all Americans are untaxed up to the poverty level via the prebate, much like your standard tax deduction. The taxes are collected by retail businesses at state level, so the system is more accountable. The IRS is done away with, and you have control over your money and what the overall tax rate your household pays. The fair tax is revenue neutral, so the government receives the same amount of money as they do now, and it's fair because you decide what's fair, not them. To learn more, visit fairtax.org and be sure to like us on social media to help educate your friends and spread the word.
And that last part there, help educate your friends and spread the word, that's very important. And that's one of the main themes for tonight. But let's go over a couple. They fit a lot of stuff, a lot of information in that 1 minute video. So let's go through a few of them. You want to take this one, Elaine?
Sure. Keep more of your paycheck. Everybody likes to do that. What we mean by that is under the income tax, because of withholding, the government is telling you that the highest priority is to feed the government before you bring home money to feed yourself and your family. And that's backwards. So we're going to get rid of the income tax, and by doing so, we get rid of withholding. So you actually bring home what you earn. You are only taxed when you spend it, not when you earn it.
And it eliminates the beloved IRS. Okay, a little tongue-in-cheek there. All right. Sales taxes are collected by the businesses at the time of purchase. Now, 45 of the 50 states already have a sales tax. So most people in the country are very familiar with this. You go to the store, you buy something. When you pay for it at the cash register, it includes the sales tax. That's not a big deal. And that's what the FairTax would do. So and because of that, because it's collected by the vendor at the time of purchase, you don't need the IRS poking into your personal business. Your personal finances are your personal finances. Again, personal. And no individual tax returns. So the FairTax eliminates the income tax, eliminates the IRS, which means your personal information is yours again, and you never have to file. As an individual, you never have to file a tax return. There's a little bit of paperwork for the businesses to do, but not that much. Next.
Reduces the bureaucracy. The income tax code right now is, when you consider the tax code, the regulations, and the court cases that pertain to it, is over 76,000 pages. That's impossible for any one person to read and understand completely. The FairTax is 132 pages. As Ron said, 45 of the states already collect a sales tax, so the infrastructure is already there, and we don't need all that bureaucracy to send out all those forms, to send out all those regulations. And the IRS is actually eliminated over a 3-year period. We have to give them 3 years because they have to finish up whatever you're obligated to pay under the income tax up to the time the FairTax goes in. You still have to pay. Well, once that's done, within 3 years, the IRS is no longer valid.
Huge reduction in tax evasion. And what do we mean by tax evasion? This is a serious problem that very few people seem to know about. And when you talk to people in Congress, they never mention it. But a study was completed a year ago this month that was commissioned by the Americans for Fair Taxation. It was an update on a 2012 study by a professor up in Jacksonville who's an expert on evasion. And last year, in his evasion study, he found out that in 2017 alone, evasion of the income tax amounted to about $693 billion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, that's a serious problem. All right. By now, it's probably up around 7. And that's the other thing. He did a 10-year projection, and it was not a pretty picture. It shows that evasion of the current income tax is going to continue to increase every year. He did a 10-year projection up through 2026. Cumulative evasion projected to be $9.1 trillion from 2017 to 2026. And that's people who are not paying their tax legally. Now, I'm not talking about avoidance. For instance, taking the standard deduction is avoiding taxes. That's legal. If you're an employee and you have business expenses related to your job, it's business employee expenses. Those are deductible. That's legal. We're talking about people that aren't reporting their income, some or all of it, and over-reporting their deductions. That's evasion. That's illegal, and it's a big problem. It's to the point where 1 in 5 people are not paying their fair share. It's a serious problem. And the FairTax reduces the evasion because it's a sales tax. How do you go to a store and evade a sales tax? It's very difficult.
Hidden taxes are something that most people don't really realize are there. But everything that you purchase today, anywhere from 17 to 30% of the cost of that item is actually due directly or indirectly to the income tax code. It's layer upon layer upon layer of corporate taxes and compliance costs. And what does that do? It raises the cost of the product and service, and the consumer winds up paying for all of those taxes. Corporations do not pay taxes. It's simply paid by the person who purchases their service or product, and then they pass it on to the federal government.
And so getting rid of those hidden costs, you do this by reducing corporate compliance costs. One of the things that companies have to deal with, sure, they have to pay the corporate tax rate, but especially for the small companies, the cost of keeping up with the tax code is a tremendous cost. In fact, for small businesses, the cost of tax compliance is usually greater than the tax itself. And it is a cost of doing business. It is rolled into the price of their product or service, and the consumer, that's you and I, we end up paying for it. So keeping up with the tax code would be drastically reduced because there would be no corporate income tax. There'd be no income tax of any kind, no individual or corporate estate tax, everything associated with the income tax would go away. So that will help businesses be more efficient, and especially for small businesses, because it's small businesses that create most of the jobs in this country. I'm going to do this one too. Makes U.S. products more competitive at home and abroad. We have a situation, I mean, you probably heard that the president just invoked some tariffs, and there's people on both sides of that issue that think it's a terrible idea or it's a good idea or whatever. But under the FairTax, it would be completely unnecessary. What we have now, our income tax, as we just displayed in the last couple of slides, cause an increase in the cost of doing business for our U.S.-based businesses. When they try to ship that overseas, that embedded cost is there. It's not, regulated by Congress. It's in there because of the insanity of the tax code. And so our stuff going overseas costs a lot of money, a lot more because of the tax code. Now, those folks, most of the other countries have what they call a VAT tax, a value-added tax. Not going to get into that, but what happens is when a company, say in Germany, ships a product to the United States, the German government strips that VAT tax out. So that company has a huge advantage cost-wise because their product can come to our country at a lower cost. Puts our companies at a sincere disadvantage with the current system. With the FairTax, it levels the playing field, all right? Whether there's foreign products coming into our country or our products going offshore to other countries, currently our companies are at a disadvantage. When we implement the FairTax, that's going to strip out those most of those hidden costs. The FairTax will not be assessed on products going overseas, all right? And so products coming into this country and products going out of this country are going to be a level playing field. And it's going to put our companies in a better situation. And you won't need tariffs.
Greater transparency. There is no transparency now. As I said before, most of these taxes are hidden in the cost of your products and services. But under the FairTax, every time you purchase an item, you will see exactly how much you are paying in federal taxes, because it's going to be written right there on your receipt.
And that will do a lot for increasing public awareness. Okay, now, in the first video, they mentioned the prebate. All right, the prebate is the key to fairness in the FairTax, and it protects the poor from excessive taxation. All right, Every legal American household will receive a monthly prebate equal to the fair tax paid on the basic necessities. All right, this makes the fair tax progressive, not regressive. You will hear some people that they have not done their homework on the fair tax. They're not really sure what it is, but when they hear it's a sales tax, then they automatically assume it's regressive, because a normal sales tax is regressive in that it takes a bigger chunk out of the working poor's income than the wealthy. But the prebate is there to reverse that. Now let's see what this is all about.
The fair tax does not hurt the poor and does not reward the rich because it's not a straight sales tax like the sales tax we already have. The fair tax creates a level playing field by taxing everyone at the same rate at the cash register, but untaxes the household up to poverty level. This means that those living closer to the poverty level pay a lower overall tax rate, while those living a lavish lifestyle pay a higher overall tax rate. Yet the law still applies to everyone equally. This is called the prebate, which reimburses every legal American household the taxes they will have to pay on the basic necessities each month. As those basic necessities vary by household, the fair tax untaxes you and not the purchases. This keeps tax lobbyists out of the picture and keeps you in control of what you pay. Do you think the prebate will be too expensive and act just like a huge welfare program? The prebate will cost less than half of what the current deductions and exemptions cost, and operates just like the standard deduction you already take. It's your money. You're just getting it back each month rather than once a year. Everyone under the fair tax controls their own tax rate by deciding when and how much money they spend above poverty level, and thus how much they pay in taxes. To learn more, please visit fairtax.org and be sure to like us on social media to help educate your friends and spread the word.
Okay, so like they said, the prebate ensures that every family, not just the working poor, every family, everybody pays the fair tax, everybody gets the prebate, all legal households, all right? And the prebate is there to reimburse you on the fair tax you'll be paying on the basic necessities. Basic necessities like food, clothing, shelter, basic med care, and so forth, all right? Here's the schedule. As you see on the right-hand side in the green bar there, this is a typical family of mom and dad and 2 kids. All right. According to Health and Human Services, they've determined, and this is up to date. We just got these figures a few weeks ago. Takes a family of 4, mom and dad and 2 kids, $32,920 just for the basic necessities of life. Okay. Yes, under the fair tax, when they buy groceries and they pay the rent and whatever they do, basic necessities, buy clothing, they will pay the fair tax. But then they're going to get $631 electronically deposited to them every month. That will reimburse them in advance for the fair tax they'll be paying on the basic necessities. So they pay the fair tax when they go to the store and pay for services, but they get it back at the beginning of the month. For the people that are just getting by, this is a big deal. For the people that are very wealthy and have a lot of disposable cash, it's not so much, but they get it anyways because they're legal households. So everybody gets it. Take this one, Elaine.
This shows the effective fair tax rate. These figures are a year old because we just haven't gotten the new ones as yet. But as you can see, because the fair tax prebate reduces your liability, if you're just getting by, you're basically just paying no taxes. You'd have to spend about $50,000 above to get to 8.1%. To get all the way to 22.3% of your income, you'd have to spend $1 million. So you can see that the people on the lower end of the scale are paying a much smaller effective tax rate than those at the larger end.
And that does away with the regressive nature of the sales tax. That's why the fair tax is so special. Now, some of you are probably out of state. This is a Florida issue, but I left it in here because it's important for everybody to know this. Here in Florida 4 years ago, thanks to the efforts of the previous managing director of the Florida FairTax, Mark Gupton, worked tirelessly on this. The legislature of Florida made it the official policy of this state to promote the fair tax in Washington. And it said, it may be hard to read here, but and it says, this memorial urges Congress to repeal all taxes on income and enact a national retail sales tax as specified in H.R. 25, the Fair Tax Act of 2013. Well, it was also the Fair Tax Act of 2015 and the Fair Tax Act of 2017. So it is the official policy. We encourage people in all the states to work on this. It's a very good thing for your legislature to make a statement like this, because this letter went to the President of the United States, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, both senators from Florida, and all 27 representatives in the House from Florida. So when we go to a representative and say, we would like you to co-sponsor the fair tax, and oh, by the way, there's this Senate memorial that was passed in 2014. You know, it's the official policy of Florida. That's a nice tool to have when you're talking to your legislators. And we encourage you to call your representatives and senators and demand that they co-sponsor the fair tax.
And if your senators or your representatives are already co-sponsors, thank them. Yeah. It's good to hear that you've done something nice. So encourage them to not only co-sponsor, but to actively try to push the fair tax forward.
Okay. All right, now we've come to the question and answer period. Right now, we've only got one question. For those of us who regularly contribute, how are these funds used? All right. Now, I'm assuming that he's talking about contributing to the AFFT, the national group, and I'm going to unmute Randy because he does a lot of stuff.
He wears many hats.
Yes. Come on, unmute. I'm clicking the button and it's not working. Yes. Oh, okay. I had to choose a little thing. Randy, are you with us? Apparently not. Until I get Randy on here, because I did unmute him, but the little symbol is not cooperating here. Anyways, I am not a board member with the Americans for Fair Taxation. Elaine and I are board members here in Florida. And so is Randy. Randy wears a lot of hats. He's a board member on the Florida Fair Tax, and he's a board member for the AFFT. I know that the AFFT has a lot of monthly expenses and annual.
Many of them pertain to just keeping up the websites. Yeah. Different websites. That's quite an expense in itself.
Randy, you're there?
Hey, Ron, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you now, Randy. Thanks.
The question is, for those of us who regularly contribute, how are these funds used? And I thought you could address this better than us.
Yeah, we have to stay qualified as a nonprofit. So that means we have to file in all 50 states and complete a compliance process. We have to have an annual audit of all of the monies taken in and all of the monies expended, and make sure that that audit gets properly filed in all the states. We maintain 2 websites and a 430,000 person database And we just added a customer relations management system called Your Membership. So people will actually now have a login. They'll be able to update their information. And we've been sending out about 260,000 emails in a blast a couple times a week. So those expenses, plus incidental expenses, there's no salary. We have no offices that anybody rents, with the exception of 3 consultants, the auditing company, the database management, and your membership management firm, and the website management firms. Those expenses amount to about $9,000 a month, and essentially we're taking in about $10,000 a month.
Okay, I think that explains it. And at this point, that is the only question we have. So, since there are no other questions, apparently, Elaine, we did a fantastic job in explaining the FairTax so far.
I guess so.
So we're going to go on with the rest of the webinar here. How to help others learn about the FairTax. It should be how to help yourself and others. Okay, there's a lot of ways of learning about the FairTax, and if you don't like one, if it just doesn't fit your, the way you operate, fine. There's others. First off, there's books. Okay, America's Big Solution is a short book, is written by a volunteer here in Ocala. And it's a very basic introduction to the FairTax. If you want to introduce somebody in a very pleasing way, using some humor and some graphics, some entertaining graphics and so forth, but getting the basic points of the FairTax across, that's a good way to do it. And then there's the books.
It's a great way to get young students involved.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So it's a good basic introduction. And after I mention the others, I'll tell you where you can get these. All right. In 2005, some of you may remember Neil Bortz. He used to be on the radio. And he and Congressman John Linder wrote the book, the FairTax book. And this is how Elaine and I learned about the FairTax, because we were traveling quite a bit at the time, because we were truck drivers, believe it or not. And listen to Neil Bortz, and he'd talk about this FairTax, and whatever he mentioned about it sounded really good. So when they came out with the book, I got the book and I read it, and I thought, this really makes a lot of sense. And I gave it to Elaine, and she said, yeah, this really is good. Then 3 years later, they came out with FairTax: The Truth, Answering the Critics. All right, because there was some reaction to the first book, and actually they did do an oversimplification of one issue. So they came out with it and straightened it out. These books are available in print, all 3 of these, and they're also available in electronic form. You can get them from Amazon, both in print and electronic form for the Amazon Kindle. You can get them from Barnes & Noble. They're available, again, they're available from Barnes & Noble in electronic form, and the 2 books by Bortz and Linder are available in print also. And you
the books of the FairTax books and FairTax, the Answering the Critics, are also both available on audiobook.
Oh, that's right. Yep. And then you've also got the Apple iBook store, and I believe you can get all 3 of these in electronic form for the Apple products, the iPad and the iPhone and so forth. So if books is your way of learning something, or you know somebody that is unfamiliar with the FairTax and they prefer reading about it, this is one of the ways. I recommend getting the Red Book. If you're beyond the basic introduction and you want a thorough dissertation on the FairTax, I recommend the Red Book. Okay, learn from our website. The Americans for Fair Taxation have a great website, and I'm going to click it here because this is a live link, and I'm going to show you. Especially the frequently asked questions. If you leave this webinar and you think of a question that, why didn't I ask that during the webinar? Okay, you go to fairtax.org. Wait for it to come up here. And you go to the FAQs, and there's a whole bunch of them there. Just about everything that anybody can think of to ask about the fair tax has been asked and answered. And I'm not going to go through them, obviously, for time constraints, but you can see there's a lot of questions asked and answered here. It's a great resource, and it's very quick and it's very personal. You can do it right there at your own computer. Let's go back to the webinar. Okay. You can also find a fair tax organization in your state. Okay. Again, if you go to the fairtax.org, there is a link that will show you the states that have their own site. If I click on Florida here, hopefully it'll come up with our new website, because we just got a brand new website that we're very excited about. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's go back. Okay. So you can learn from websites, books, websites, social media. If you're on Facebook, so is the FairTax. Facebook.com/FairTax. All right. That is, well, Randy's organization, Americans for Fair Taxation. But there's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of Facebook pages for the fair tax. There's, let's see, what are some of them? Elaine, do you remember some of the others?
Right off my head, no, I can't remember the name of them.
I know several states have their own Facebook fair tax page.
Right.
And I'll mention the fair tax guys later on.
I know there's Democrats for fair tax,
yep.
New Jersey fair tax,
yep.
New York fair tax. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, the fair tax has a big presence on Facebook. So if you like using Facebook, that's a great way for you to learn more about the fair tax and share your information with all your Facebook friends. Okay. There's also Twitter. If you're a Twitter person, all right, there's a big presence on of the fair tax on Twitter also, and that is the address for the AFFT, Fair Tax Official. Randy does a lot of work on both of these sites. Every time I check in there, there's all kinds of stuff from Randy there, because that's his bailiwick with the AFFT. He's chair of the Marketing and Communications Committee, which is a very active committee. And then this one, I want to strongly recommend that you go to this one. That Randy referenced this, all right? FairTax USA, member.fairtax.org. Please go to member.fairtax.org and join in, okay? I think it'll cost you a couple of bucks to join in. That it's worth it. And then this is kind of a Facebook-like environment where you can share your information about Facebook with others. But what it doesn't have is pictures of people's cats and the new shoes they just bought and all the other nonsense that you see on
what they just ate for dinner. It's more or less a closed community for fair tax supporters.
Yeah.
So you can get ideas from people from all around the country, help when you need it, answering questions, whatever you need. That's what it's there for. And it looks very much like a Facebook page, but it is only for fair tax supporters.
Yeah. So we strongly encourage you to join. There's the website. Click the join button, go in there, put in your information, and then announce to everybody that you've just joined the group, and you'll get a lot of welcomes and so forth. This is the way we're going to get the fair tax across the finish line. We need to get this social media, fair tax social media site up with thousands and thousands of people. It's a way for fair tax volunteers to interact with FairTax volunteers in other parts of the country to let them know, what they did, what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. So it's a great tool, and I encourage everybody to get in there and get involved. Oh, and then there happens to be these weekly podcasts, the FairTax Power Radio, hosted by the FairTax guys, which the FairTax guys are yours truly and Bob Paxton. All right, Bob is the radio guy. He's a FairTax volunteer here in North Central Florida. He's got radio experience, and he called me, or he emailed me one time and said, I have an opportunity to start this FairTax Power Radio. And he said, I'd like you to join me because it'd be more interesting of two people talking about the fair tax, and to put it in his words, instead of one person bloviating about it. And those were his exact words. So it's a tremendous resource. We have a reach. They're free podcasts. They're on Spreaker.com. They're also on iTunes and iHeartRadio. And if you have a smartphone, you can get a free FairTax Power Radio app for both Apple products and the Android. All right. We put out a weekly podcast. Like I said, there's a new one posted. The next one will be at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. But it's posted at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That doesn't mean you have to get up early and listen to it, because it's a podcast. It's always there. And you can listen to it anytime you want. Download it to your phone or your computer and listen to it. If you download it to your phone and you're traveling in the car, you can listen to it there. So nowadays, a lot of the smartphones hook up to the car radio, so you can listen to it that way. So
each of these podcasts are only a half hour long.
Yeah.
So they're not, they don't bore you. In fact, some of it is a little tongue-in-cheek. We even had Thomas Jefferson stop by the FairTax Power Radio.
That's right. That's right. You can check back at the FairTax Power Radio episodes back around Christmas and New Year's, and you can see that Thomas Jefferson checked in. I'm not going to tell you any more. I'm not going to ruin it. So, okay, and then there's this webinar. Obviously, if you're here now, you're familiar with the webinar. Tell others. Don't keep it a secret. Tell others about this webinar. It's the fourth Thursday of every month. It's absolutely free. Yes, you do have to register. You already know that. If you're listening to me, then you already know that you have to register for it. All right? So this is another way, a very simple way, and you don't have to go anywhere. It's absolutely free. It's at your computer. It takes about an hour of your time on the fourth Thursday of the month. And Mark Maneri, who normally does this, has a different, little bit different take on it every month. They do a different special topic. All right, you register at fairtax.org/webinar. Very simple. So write that down. Tell your friends and family about it. I mean, you've got a month to get them ready. Actually, if you tell them now, everybody's going to forget about it. So we'll put reminders on Facebook and Twitter and member.fairtax.org, and we'll remind everybody about it. But that's another good way for people to get introduced and learn more about the fair tax. Yep, different topic each month. I said that. And AFFT has a toll-free number, 1-800-FAIRTAX. That's pretty easy to remember. And a volunteer expert will answer live or call you back as soon as possible. And that volunteer expert is Randy. And Randy is extremely knowledgeable on the fair tax. So you've got books, you've got social media, you've got websites. There's a lot of ways to learn more and to help other people learn more about the fair tax, because
the time for being silent has long gone.
Yeah.
We have to be noisy, folks. We have to let everybody know that we are in favor of the fair tax. They have to know what the fair tax is, and they need to join us. That's how grassroots efforts grows. You talk to 2 people, those 2 people talk to 4 more people, those 4 people talk to us, and on and on and on. And eventually we will have the Congress to the point where they will be afraid not to vote for the fair tax.
Mm-hmm.
Get personally involved.
Oh yeah, there's another at fairtax.org, the main website for AFFT. You'll see something called the toolbox. I'm going to show you this because this is very important. It's a toolbox because it has all kinds of tools for not only for you to learn more about the fair tax, but for you to help others learn about the fair tax. It's PopVox is a great website where you can register your support for not only HR 25 in the House, but S18 in the Senate. It's important to do both. And another thing, when you get on PopVox, it's a free site. You have to log in with your name and your address. It needs your address because that way it knows what congressional district you're in. And then that way it knows who your representative and your senators are. All right. Not only can you log in your support for the fair tax, but you can search out other tax proposals and tell people why you think it's not such a good idea and it doesn't measure up to the fair tax. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, invite your friends on Facebook. There's got co-sponsors in the last Congress, 114th, co-sponsors in the current Congress, and downloaded printed materials. All these things you can download and print them out and share with people. Videos, here's the source for several videos. The first
two of which we just played for you.
Yeah. What is the fair tax and the prebate explained. Those videos we use tonight. There's a whole bunch of videos on the AFFT's YouTube channel, and I know for our Florida fair tax, we have our own YouTube channel also, and the fair tax guys have a YouTube channel. All right, so there's a lot of stuff here. Research library. I don't think we mentioned that the fair tax is backed up by $20 million worth of research. Now, this is scholarly research that mere mortals it might have a little difficulty reading, but it's there. I mean, you can read the executive summary, but it's there. A lot of research behind the fair tax. Okay. Democrats in the fair tax. Yeah, it's unfortunate right now only Republicans are co-sponsoring the fair tax. I think that's a statement of the polarization of politics in Washington. It's too bad because the fair tax really benefits everybody, and it's got features in there that everybody of any political party will love. So that's the toolbox. It's a good resource. Oh, I just clicked.
Hold on, folks.
I didn't realize I clicked on the next thing without it even showing up.
Did it again.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we have another question there, Ron.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Is there a standard PowerPoint briefing that we could use to educate friends? I can make this one available, but and also I want to thank Jim Hoey of the Bradenton area. He made this. This is, as you can see, this is a very simple, straightforward PowerPoint. Although on a Mac it's called Keynote, but still it's the same idea. I can make this one available to you, and then if you're at all familiar with the software, you can modify it for your own purposes. That's what I did. I took Jim Hoey's PowerPoint or Keynote because he uses a Mac also, and modified it to our own purposes. So yeah, let me make a note so I don't forget.
Mr. Harkson, if you would get in touch with us, we can send that to you if we can get your email address.
Yeah, email us at Ocala FairTax, all one word, Ocala FairTax @iCloud.com. And then I'll send you a link. I can put this thing in a Dropbox and I can send you the link to the Dropbox. So, let's see. We have one. I learned about the FairTax from Neil. I have found it
Disappointing that other prominent talk show hosts have not given this play or promotion. I heard Hugh Hewitt basically dismiss it recently on his show. Is there any movement to find another talkmaster to promote the FairTax? We are always looking for another person to
Randy,
do that for us.
do you have anything to add to that one, Randy? Ooh,
I don't know, we may have lost Randy again.
yeah.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
We're searching high and low for a big name. We had a meeting about it today. Michael Berry was one that came up. God, I know I didn't study for this test. There were 3 or 4 names that came up, but none of them particularly want to be locked in on one topic or be associated with one thing. Particularly when if there's no certainty of success, and so far the answer is we haven't found anybody.
Yeah. So we're still searching for that for the next Neil Bortz. We could I don't know, if we find somebody, we can start a campaign and contact everybody and tell them contact this person, this man or this woman, and tell them to get behind the FairTax. But so.
Well, it doesn't look like we've got any more questions, Tara.
I don't think so. There's the other websites. Oh yeah, bigsolution.org. This is the fairtax.org is where you can learn more about the FairTax. Big Solution is where you can get involved. That's more of an activist website. And this is what it looks like. All right. You can get on here. You can see connect, support, contribute, build. Build means you can put in the names and email addresses of people you know, and the system will send out an invitation. And if they don't want anything to do with it, then the system will forget about them and they won't be bothered again. But this is a way to get more people in the AFFT's website or database. Okay, so this is a good one to actually help them out and get more people involved, because it's going to take a critical mass of citizens to get this done. And this is one of the ways to do it. So that's another website I encourage you to take a look at.
The higher the number in our database, the easier it is to get a congressperson to talk to us.
Yeah.
Because the first thing out of their mouth is how many people support you. And so if we have a large database, they listen.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what we're trying. As Randy mentioned, we're all volunteers. There's nobody in either the national organization or any of the state organizations that are paid. We don't have offices. We all work out of our homes and so forth. And some of us put in quite a few hours on this because it's something we believe in. Elaine and I have 7 grandchildren. I don't want them to have to deal with the IRS. Actually, we're a little late with several of them because they're already, earning money while they're going to college. But it would be really nice to get rid of the IRS before our grandchildren grow up. We're doing this not only for ourselves, but our kids and our grandkids. And that's why we feel so passionate about it. So again, these are some of the resources that you can use to get involved. We hope you get involved. And there's one thing we're doing here in Florida. It's just in the formative stage. We're forming a FairTax Speakers Bureau. This we're just getting going. Elaine and I were gone last week, and so we haven't quite got this off the ground yet. But we're going to spend more time on this, and we're hiring a person who's going to find speaking engagements for the leaders here in Florida. And so we're going to use high tech and old tech too. There's no substitute for getting in front of a group of people and talking to them about fair tax. Elaine and I did that yesterday. We went to a homeowners association here in Ocala, and there was about 35 people there, and it was very well received. I gave them basically this same presentation. A lot of questions, a lot of interest, and a lot of people signed up. And so we're going to do that around the state. This fellow is going to look into speaking engagements after we get all the speakers on board and get everybody together so you know what we're doing. This is something that can be duplicated in other states. This is not a big deal. So, and that's it. I put the blank page at the end so that I knew when I came to the end of this. All right. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Let me open up the question pane here.
No, there's no more questions at this time.
Okay. Well, I think we finished. This webinar has been recorded, and it will be stored when the recording is all done. It'll be stored on the Florida FairTax Florida FairTax website, which is fftea.webinars.org. So that's another thing you can share. I should have put that in as the resources. All the webinars are recorded and they're archived. So you can look back at past webinars and see what they did. So if there are no other questions, then I think we're going to suspend our activities for this evening. I thank everybody for being here. We appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedules, and we'll make sure that for Mr. Harkson, we'll get that. We'll get this PowerPoint out to you, and anybody else that wants to see it, sure. What the heck, you can use it.
Hey, anything to advance the cause here.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us. Hopefully we will see you next month and you will bring other people in with you.
Yeah, please bring others next month. All right. I can't remember what date that something tells me April 26th is the
it's the fourth Thursday, whatever date that is.
But Mark Maneri will be back, I assume, and he'll do his usual fine job. I hope you enjoyed this, because this was Elaine and I have hosted one of these things, but this is the first time I ran the software, so it was a little interesting here. But it seemed to go off without too many problems. Okay, folks, thanks.
Good night, everyone.